Well, hello again, all the boys and girls out there in YouTube land watching. John and Ellie of Georgia Beer Reviews back at you this evening, but we're not looking at beer. I am with the one, the only Robert the Whiskey Scout out there in Kansas, and we are looking at the Jim Beam Black double-aged 8-year age statement Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. This bottle is courtesy of Robert. Thanks, Robert. This is actually the second bottle that you sent me. I loved it so much the first time, and you were kind enough to send me another bottle, so I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. It's meant to be shared. And that's a convenient way to mail because post office, because not post office. I've never used post office. But it's a convenient way. It's harder to mail this. I think this is a full liter. Yeah, this is a whole liter here. This is not a 750. Once you get it in this size of bottles, it's a little trickier to mail. But
okay, well, I've really been enjoying this. I have also had the current version of the Black, which is obviously not an 8-year age product. So anybody out there that might be watching, if you can get your hands on the 8-year, that's what we're looking at. It's becoming more and more rare these days because they no longer produce it. But I'm going to go ahead and defer to you, Robert. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about this?
It's been several years now since they quit adding the age statement, but you can still see it out there. It's available. There's one store in Wichita, I know, if you want to buy the handles, they had 2 or 3 handles. Now, whether they still got them or not, I don't know. But, you know, and it's just around. You find it in little stores here and there occasionally. Some guy posted a whole shelf about 6-8 months ago on one of the whiskey sites I belong to that they had it on. And I thought that was interesting. You don't see a whole shelf very often, but that was out west. I want to say California, but it may not have been. But the double-aged 8-year-old, what they've done is they still have the double-aged Black in the system, but it's no longer an 8-year-old whiskey, which means the youngest whiskey in this is an 8-year-old whiskey. This is 43% alcohol by volume, 86 proof. And it won some awards. Got a 93. There's several it's compared in the top selling whiskeys, but I don't remember the year. I should have had a year on there. Anyway, but they do rather well, and it's a well liked, well known, and it's kind of missed. The newer stuff just doesn't quite measure up. And I've done a video where I've compared the original, this one, and the distiller's cut, which has a 6-year-old age statement. It's a little higher proof. It comes in, I think, at dang it, I can't remember now. I think it's 100 proof. But it's a whole different beast, though, and it's really good. The distiller's cut is one of the better products they've produced in a while. But anyway, back to this one. I've had several bottles. I still got one more left besides this one, I think. I see one more up there, and I think that's it. And it's a 750. The label's even older on it. It's a little older bottle. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Yep. And I think it's a liter too. But the label, as you can tell, is older and different. Yeah.
I like on the side there, they got all the people on the Beam family, or is that the?
I assume, yeah, it's all the Beams. Yeah. 7 generations of family distilleries. Clear down to Fred No, which is 1957 to present. No, why would they have that? Booker No was 1920, 2004. Can't read that. That's weird. They'd have a faux pas like that on here. Sorry, we are digressing big time. Yeah, they got Fred No down as 1957 to present. Fred No is Booker No's son, and I don't think that's right. Because Booker passed and Fred took over. That's probably his actual birth date. So maybe he started there back then, be my guess. Anyway, it's a much old. This is an older bottle wise, but it's the same stuff. Anyway,
so do you remember when they stopped putting the 8-year age statement on it? What year or around what time?
Off the top of my head, I can't recall what year. I should have looked that up before I jumped on here, but I didn't know which one we was going to do.
No, that's fine. Hey, this is just spur of the moment, folks. We're just here drinking whiskey, having a good time, and you know.
I'm thinking 2015, 16 range, okay. Somewhere in there. It might have been 2014, somewhere in there though. Somewhere in 14, 15, or 16, I think, is when they actually quit doing that. Anyway, but like I said, it's still available. If you wind up in a small liquor store, it's very common to see them still. You might have to visit 10 different liquor stores to see one, and usually they'll have it, they'll have all the newer stuff stored to the front. Sometimes you got to look back at them bottle tops all the way to the back, and you'll see the older bottle.
Yeah. I've looked at a couple of places here because I really do like it. And I have not seen any of the 8-year age statement bottles around here, but I might,
you live in a bigger market. Yeah, you live in a bigger market, John. That's making a bigger difference for you.
Yeah. I love the aroma with this. It's just so robust. You get a lot of the oak.
Yeah, but you get the caramel, you get the vanilla, you get the rye spice comes in really nice. Gives that slight, bright, sort of minty sort of note to it. Just so faint, but so there. I mean, once you smell it, it's there. And the oak is nice too. Yes, it has a very good oak character in this.
Almost like a mentholated type thing going on with the aroma. Is that what you?
Yeah.
Kind of like.
I don't know about mint. Yeah, you could say mentholated, maybe a little bit.
Just ever so slightly, but I am getting a little bit of that. But yeah, obviously the oak is really prevalent with this. That's one of the reasons I like it, because bourbon is my favorite style of whiskey, and I love the really, rich oaky bourbons, and that's definitely what I'm getting on the nose. Of course, caramel.
Yeah, the caramel, especially right there when you just get the very first faint whiff hit your nose, and that's the first thing I get. A little sweet caramel with a little vanilla with it. And it really, really, I just enjoy the smell. I like this stuff. Now there's people that are, that if it's not below 100 proof, it ain't worth drinking. You got proof whores. That's a term.
Yeah.
That's referred to sometimes. You hear people talk about that. And there's something to be said about higher proof alcohol. I'm not knocking them either, because I like higher proof alcohol. It provides good flavors too. But I think if you step over this, just straight to that, you're missing the gem here. I mean, for 86 proof makes it much more drinkable, much more palatable to your senses. And, that's my perception anyway. I never mind drinking. Now, some 40%ers can get watery and not very tasteful, but this brings a really good flavor at 43%, 86 proof.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not really getting anything else on the aroma other than what we already mentioned. I'm ready to get into it. So, cheers.
Maybe cheers, and I think maybe a faint peanut note. Ever so faint.
Man, is that good. Nice alcohol legs, too. I don't think it's going to pick it up, but really nice alcohol legs going down.
You can see a little bit on the back side of the glass. Oh, that sweetness sets in. And that sweetness brings a little bit more of the peanut with it. I'm noticing it more and more. It's typically a Jim Beam characteristic.
That's interesting. I'm not really getting peanut. Although now that you mentioned it, I might pick up on it here in a minute.
Right. I mean, it's not a lot of people get it on a lot of Jim Beam products. I don't get it on all of them. Some of them I have to hunt for it too. But this one shows up almost like a Spanish peanut. The Spanish peanut taste. It's not peanut brittle, but the caramel is it's so rich. I enjoy that rich caramel note on this. This is very simple.
Yeah.
This is a good sippable whiskey. Requires no water, no ice. The vanilla and the caramel greet you there. Ever so faint of good rye spice. Don't really get the mint on the palate that I get on the nose per se, but I do get the wood and there's something. Not a lot. I mean, there's a spiciness to it, but it's not a lot of spice. And I think more nutmeg in this instance than cinnamon to me. There's two camps, nutmeg and cinnamon usually. And to me, it's more of a nutmeg note. Let me see what my
the oak and the caramel for me are really just in your face, very, very strong with those two notes. The caramel is almost, to me, it's like, I don't know where caramel crosses the line over into toffee, but it's just very heavy on that caramel note, which I like. And then the charred, the oak notes that I'm getting are really nice. And you mentioned vanilla earlier. Definitely get a lot of vanilla once you kind of get through that, the initial caramel and some of the charred oak components. The vanilla, little vanilla sweetness in the background. It lingers a little bit more. We were doing the Old Charter not too long ago, and that one was a completely different aroma, taste profile, everything. But that one was pretty short-lived. I find that this one kind of lingers a little bit. The finish is a little bit more lingering, and which some people might find that a good quality, others may not. I find it to be a good quality because the experience of drinking the whiskey is so pleasant that I kind of want it to stick around a little bit.
It dwells. It dwells. It hangs around, and that's what a good whiskey does for you. I get just a little bit of coconut to it. Oh, I'm looking it up right now. The age statement ended in 2014.
Oh, okay.
I was lucky. I turned right to the right page. Yep, turned right to the right page in it. And, I want to reel that back on the nutmeg because to me, a nutmeg brings a slightly more earthy than cinnamon, and I get that kind of earthiness right now. But even in my notes then, I said cinnamon instead of nutmeg. So right now, for whatever reason, I had some cheese earlier. Maybe that's what's kind of got my palate a little. Had some real sharp New York cheddar or some. For some reason, I'm picking up. To me, it's coming more across like nutmeg than cinnamon. But it's got that spicy note. And it's not heavy, though. It's just an ever so light spicy note. We're not talking. I get probably more black pepper than anything on the nose. I mean, on the palate, not the nose. But
I'm not so much getting the cinnamon on the palate yet, but maybe a little bit on the aroma now.
Yeah.
I'm not getting any nutmeg, but I can see where cinnamon would come into play. I'm getting a little bit of that. Once I get past the caramel, let me get another little swig here and see if maybe I pick it up on the palate.
The caramel and vanilla are the two winners on this, and the oak.
Yeah, I'm still not really getting the cinnamon on the palate, but I started picking up a little bit of cinnamon on the aroma just then.
Yeah. When
you have to kind of talk about a whiskey and kind of, new things start to develop and everything that you're experiencing is pleasant, you've got something special. And that's what I'm getting with this. Much like the Old Charter, the 8-year Old Charter had the nice banana note, and it really was aromatic and almost floral to a certain degree. But I mean, this one's completely different than that. I'm not really comparing the whiskeys. I'm just the overall experience of drinking a good whiskey is
hard. This is a good one. I mean, it really is. Again, the two primary leading things on this though is the caramel and the vanilla for me, and they're very well developed. They mesh very well together. There is a nice mouthfeel for 43%, which is not watery at all. There is a good, pleasant, slick. I call it slick in this case, but I don't really know. It's not like it's not buttery per se, but there's a little body to it. And sometimes when you get in the 43 and the 40%ers, you lose a little of that body. This retains it pretty well. I mean, it really does.
Yeah.
And that's what helps it linger on your palate for a while.
Now, you rate your whiskeys differently. You know, you're a regular on Stout Sunday. You rate your beers much like I rate my, pretty much the same as I rate my beers. I rate my spirits the same as I rate my beers, but that's just because I'm, that's I've been doing the beer thing for a while. I haven't been doing the whiskey thing as much, so I just rate the whiskeys like I rate the beers. Your scale is a little different. I'm going to let you explain it a little bit. You were talking about the 85 as the starting point, and
an 85 should be a beginning spot for all whiskey, and from there, depending on how much you like it versus how much you don't like it, you start subtracting points to and from on both sides of that. For me, beer is usually almost anybody that makes beer. We've come to a point where a lot of people make good beer. I mean, it's, you really have, if it's a bad beer, they quit making, I mean, it just goes away. I mean, and that's just kind of how beer does. And whiskey's a lot different. You get a lot of people that will put out subpar whiskey just to get their name out there, just to try to get some name notoriety to try to break into the big boys, especially your smaller startup distilleries. So sometimes, and even big distilleries give you one-offs that make you go, what are they thinking? When an 85 is a very good, drinkable, repeatable whiskey. And from there, how good and how it works with your palate depends on how much you decide to increase it. Looking at my old score, I gave this an 86, for instance, and it's just a really good whiskey, one up. But I think tonight, because maybe it's just hit me right or whatever, but I kind of thought this would happen because I haven't had a bourbon in probably 5 or 6 days at least at this point, it seems like.
Wow.
And it's tickling my palate really well right now. So I'm going to give it an 80. I'm going to give it an 88. I'm going to step it up 2 points because I'm really enjoying the experience. And the experience is what matters because it's also subjective. I mean, it's very subjective what we each look at into this. And so tonight be an 88 for me. And I think the cinnamon, because what I had earlier was I had taken some nacho cheese and I took some homemade salsa about an hour and a half ago, dumped them together, and I had a bunch of tortilla chips with it. Nice. So it's kind of hanging around on my palate, and it's kind of, the spiciness is not as noticed. I mean, I'm really having to hunt for it, but I would say it's probably, I will go with my first, what I say about cinnamon. There's a spiciness there. There's some black pepper, and I noticed coconut on there, but I'm not getting coconut tonight. I don't notice coconut.
I'm not getting coconut, but yeah, my palate's a little bit younger when it comes to this type of stuff.
This is a different bottle than when I did the review, and these bottles here and there, like you see the older one there. I think the last one was similar to this, other than it was a 750, because I got 2 glasses that come in a pack, if I remember correctly. And so there can be slight variations in batches and bottles.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a Christmas pack that had 2 Jim Beam bottles in glasses in it, and 750. But that one's been gone for a year or more.
Yeah,
I've done moved on. So anyway, I like it. I do think I rated the new double aged. I think I gave it a 83 instead of an 86 on the original and 88 now. And honestly, there's not a lot wrong with it either. I wouldn't turn it down. It's not a turn down whiskey. In fact, I would, if I walked in the liquor store and their selection that was the best that I perceived they had, I would have no problem buying that either, honestly. But this is a little better, just a little bit better, a few points better.
Well, I've really enjoyed it. I'm glad we did this tonight. I went ahead and poured the rest of it, so I'm drinking it all down. I've thoroughly enjoyed the bottle. My ratings for whiskey are the same as for beer, and for me, it's a pretty solid A. I mean, obviously, as I continue to expand my palate and drink more and get to try a lot more stuff, my ratings will change with my experience. But I'm going to go with a 94. It's a pretty solid A. I have had better. I mean, I've had, I think, very few, but I've had Blanton's. I think the Stag Junior that I had was really good. I had
that's a whole
Four Roses single barrel, and the small batch. Both of those were right there with this one. But yeah, there's very few that I can say are much better than this. But obviously, I haven't bought a lot of. I think the most expensive bottle I ever bought was the Stag Junior. Was right at $100. I don't know exactly. This was before I really paid attention to what exactly I was getting. I knew it was good. It was a store pick. It was recommended and everything. And I probably should have done a little bit more research, but I can tell you that whatever batch it was, whatever shelf it was on, whatever barrel it came out of, it was freaking delicious. And that one was that's probably the best whiskey I've ever had. Best bourbon I've ever had. Anyway, 94 out of 100. I think it's dynamite. And if you're lucky enough to find it, you're not going to pay $100 for it. You're going to get a heck of a deal. More than likely, it's going to be
more like it's $29.99.
Yeah, I mean, so value-wise, I don't think you can really do much better.
No, and he mentioned Bart Robinson mentioned the Basil Hayden. Basil Hayden's like this. I think it comes in though at 40%. I think it's just 80 proof. But I enjoy Basil Hayden too. A lot of people don't. A lot of people think it's a girl. It's known commonly as a girl's whiskey because it comes in at 40%. I don't understand that myself. Some people like it, some people don't. I like the Basil Hayden as well. I'll have no issue with Basil Hayden. If you like Basil Hayden, you'll like this. It's both Jim Beam products. They both come in very well made. You'd enjoy it. What about
Booker's is a Jim Beam product as well, correct?
Yeah, but Booker's is a different monster.
I saw a bottle, it looks really nice. I've thought about purchasing Booker's before because it comes in the nice wooden box with the glass front, with the wax seal and everything. It looks, in the bottles here that I see, of course, I'm sure they have different expressions, but the one that I usually see is, I think it's like $80, $85 for a bottle.
Yeah, it's went up. It keeps going up. When I started buying Booker's, you can still get it for $49.99 or even a little bit less on sale. In fact, the very first Booker's I bought years and years ago was this one here. And I've never opened this one. I've drank a couple of bottles since. But this is a 2014-05, which is May of 2014. And so this is quite a bit older. And I think I gave around $45, 40 if I remember right, maybe less. It wasn't, but I'm thinking after somewhere around $45. And it's a 7 years, 5 months, and it's a 63.95%. I've had a couple of different ones. I've had the tin cup, and they come with names now. This is before the names. They just gave them C 2014-05. They didn't give them, they just come with numbers. Tin cup. Give me a second. I remember the name of the other one. But I've had the tin cup, and there was one at the rocking chair, the one with the rocking chair on it. Uh-huh. And they're both good, but they both take a long time to drink. Because Booker's it's very in your face, very. You just kind of got to let it work itself through. If you try to chug Bookers, I did it once because I was on with a guy and we were being stupid. That's just basically what it was. And he poured a big old glass and swigged it down, and I poured about that much in a tumbler. After I got it down, it made me, it took my breath away. I'm not going to lie. I've had some high proof stuff. I mean, higher proof than that, but something about the Bookers and the spiciness and everything else, that high proofness just really slaps you one.
Yeah.
Like the Knob Creek. Knob Creek's better than Bookers.
I do like Knob Creek now, yeah. I haven't had some of the, like they have a ton of expressions, but just their standard the Knob Creek standard variant is really good and probably affordable.
Yeah, the standard Knob Creek itself probably not quite maybe as good as Booker's, but once you step up into the store picks on the Knob Creeks, that whole dynamic changes. I've only had one store pick that it wasn't bad, but it didn't live up to the others I've had. And so I have to, I can't say they've all been shiny winners, but 90% of them are better than what I've ever had for Bookers. And that's a personal thing. People will argue with me on that. And they can have their opinion, and it's all right. But price for price, it's hard to beat them Knob Creeks, especially when they get around 13 years old.
Ooh.
They're good. They're good.
I don't think I've ever had anything that old. That would be nice.
The store picks, if living in Georgia in a huge metropolitan area like you live in, well, access to, I know you don't live in Atlanta, but I know you don't live far from Atlanta. You would think that some of those huge liquor stores you got to have around there they'd have a barrel program. They'd have to have a barrel program. And you usually get them between $45 and $50. So
I'll have to look into that. I don't know. Yeah, probably World of Beverage, which is in Fairburn, which is just north of here. If anybody would have something like that, they probably would, because they just have. They have a separate part of the store where it's just a glass display case where they had. Ron was talking about that. I think he was talking to you about it. They had like a black bottle, like $2,000 bottle of Cuddy Sark. They had, like some crazy stuff. A couple $10,000 bottles. So they have a lot of stuff. Obviously, way out of my price range or anything I would be willing to spend. If anybody would have some kind of program like that, it would probably be that store. I have to look into that, but
you would be surprised too. It wouldn't just be the Knob Creeks. They probably Maker's Mark's been doing a lot of stuff with that stave, and it's a little more expensive. It's the $64 bottle back there with that Maker's Mark. That stave program they're doing at Maker's Mark, and these bottles here. Now, this is the only bottle I have. But I've tried, Barton Scott had a bottle that was a little different than this one. And they name each one. This one is Meet Your Makers. But they'll have different names in that little tag there. This one's only 54.25%, which is, this is good. But it tells you the different staves they use and the choices. So in the barrel, they chose 4 roasted French mocha staves, 2 Makers 46, 3 beer seared French cuvee staves, and it looks like 1 or 7, I can't make it out, baked American Pure 2. And they add those staves within the barrel, and it really changes it. So these are all, I can't say as I know anybody that's bought one of these yet that really didn't like it. But it's a whole different monster than this, and it's more flavorful than the Jim Beam Black's good, but this is better. I'll be brutally honest.
Well, it sounds like they put a lot more time into mingling some of the different barrels, the staves and stuff. It sounds incredible.
Yeah.
What was the price of that? Is that something
this was 67 after tax. I think it was right around $70.
Well, that's not bad at all. From what you just described, I was thinking a couple $100 or something.
No. But you can get these. The Knob Creeks have it. You found I've never seen the one you mentioned earlier, the not Eagle Rare. God dang it! You mentioned it earlier. What was the one?
Let's see. We were talking about Basil Hayden, the Bookers, the
the one you bought, the most expensive.
Oh, the Jim Beam double oaked. Maybe
no. It's a. I can't believe I can't remember.
Oh, Blanton's or Stag Junior.
Stag Junior, that's the one.
Stag Junior, okay.
Stag Junior. I've never seen the Stag Junior store pick. I've got 2 Eagle Rare store picks. I've got several store picks. I buy them. I've got 2 from 1792 store picks. They're out there. But one of the 1792 store picks ain't too good. The other one's good. The other one's not too good. It's just not. It comes from Chicago. I thought it'd be better than it was. I've been hoping it's going to develop after it sits in the bottle for a while.
That Stag Junior didn't have time to develop for too long because that bottle was gone within a week, I think. Oh my God, I would sip on it every night. It was, I honestly think still to this day that holds up as the best bourbon that I've ever had. Probably the best whiskey overall that I've ever had. One of those, I think it was the Lagavulin, the one you sent me. Lagavulin, yeah, I'm sorry, my pronunciation is off, but that was like a 15 or an 18 year, I can't remember, but that was the best Scotch I'd ever tried. And bourbon, I've had a lot more bourbon than I've had Scotch. But that Scotch made me want to go out and buy some really good single malts and kind of expand my palate with the Scotches. But yeah, I think that Stag Junior still holds up as the best overall whiskey that I've ever tried. It was an incredible bottle and was worth every penny.
Yep.
And if it was now instead of a few years ago when I bought it, I would have saved it for a little bit longer and seen, if it developed any. But what can I say?
Not all of them develop, though, John. Some of them, the best you get's what you get off the top. And I've had a couple of whiskeys that's been that way. They've actually degraded as time went by, and I didn't drink them fast enough. But there's a few that when they start off bad, if you let them air out, sometimes it's either, sometimes people say, well, the oxygenation helps develop and change the dynamics within the bottle and helps bring out better flavors. But sometimes it's just our palate changes. And I think people don't recognize that. First couple of times you tried it, you went, this ain't too good. But then after a while you try it again, and you say, well, wait a minute. Now I'm starting to see something here, and it develops. And that's just maybe your palate coming around to the whiskey itself. Or maybe it's a combination of both. But some do help with oxygenation, though, and that is a truth. If you really want to, there's a way to do that, and it requires buying a wine funnel and get you a wine funnel, a little time, and a screen mesh. So when it goes through there, it agitates it even more as it goes through the funnel, and you pour it into. I use my wife's graduated half-gallon Pyrex mixing bowl thing.
Right.
And I just pour it through there, and then I pour it back in the bottle. You do that a couple of times, and then it brings a lot of oxygen in there. Let it set for 20 minutes and try it again. And leave your glass that you had before than your glass now. And there is a difference. I do have to admit, I've done that a couple of times. The Glenfarclas 17 was a prime example of that.
Mm-hmm.
So
interesting.
Anyway.
sounds like wine, like when you decant a wine, very similar type thing as far as oxygenating the product and getting a different experience, letting it breathe a little bit.
Yep, it's exactly the same process. I'm drinking the Maker's Mark now.
Well, we've covered the Jim Beam Black here. I'm out. So I guess we can go ahead and wrap up the live portion of this. Once again, thanks to everybody watching. We just kind of, spur of the moment thing. We had a few watchers, some nice comments in the chat. So the Jim Beam Black Double Aged 8-year, it's a winner. It's a B and A. It's good. Any way you slice it, it's definitely worth checking out. If you can still find it, you're looking at probably $30 for a bottle. So reasonable. Well, depending on the size, these obviously are cheaper if you find a smaller bottle, but well worth the price. A good bourbon. And thanks again to Robert for sending it to me.
Not a problem. I enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely did. So we may have another examination coming up shortly with the Wellers. We'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, we appreciate everybody watching, and we will see you all on the next one. Hope everybody has a great rest of the week, enjoys their weekend, and stay safe out there, folks.
Yep.
And of course, cheers.
Cheers.